I was born into movement. My childhood was shaped by hotel lobbies, foreign languages, and cultures all colliding under one roof, where connection was currency and everyone had a story. I was the daughter of a hotelier. From Turkey to the Caribbean, from Europe to Canada, I lived in the hotels that my dad ran. And every few years we would pack up and start again. New country, new city, new hotel, and a new version of life. It was a really beautiful way to grow up. I learned how to belong everywhere, to adapt, to connect. My father used to take me on Saturday morning walkabouts throughout the hotel when I was young, and we'd walk through all the departments. Housekeeping, front office, the kitchen, and we'd shake hands with all the staff. And my father, he had this certain intention. He moved with a certain intention. And he'd look you straight in the eye, and he'd ask, "How's your family?" And then he'd ask, "How's business?" And he would always finish with "Great job." Now I wouldn't say anything. I didn't speak much, but I saw everything. The smiles, the softening, the way people came alive when they felt seen. And that's what I gleaned on those walkabouts. How to track energy, how to attune myself to others, and how to make people feel comfortable, even if I didn't. That became my normal. And that's the thing about being a kid. We don't always know what we're absorbing until years later. But what I see now is this. I was learning how to belong to the world, but I didn't yet know how to belong to myself. And for a while, that worked just fine. I stayed attuned, composed. I was easy to be around. I was the one who always knew how to be and what to say. Until one day, it didn't. Because overnight, without warning or explanation, my family fell apart. One day we were whole. The next, my father was gone. My mother was with someone new. I had no idea why. No one told me. And suddenly, all that knowing, how to connect, how to adapt, how to be the good one, it meant nothing. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know how to hold the grief of what I had lost. So, I did what so many of us do when we feel grief and pain. I disappeared. I started throwing up 3 times a day. I started smoking. I started to obsessively exercise. And I became the rescuer in every room. And I lied a lot. to cover the cracks. And no one noticed. Because I masked my pain behind baggy clothes, big achievements, beautiful distractions, athletic trophies, globe-trotting, helping others in greater crises than my own. I made the breakdown look impressive. On the outside, I was functioning, still achieving, still smiling, still pleasing. But inside I was spent. I was spent. I was gripping for control, food, body, relationships, emotions. Anything to hold the chaos inside of me together. Anything to avoid the heartbreak of losing what I loved most. And this worked until one day, many decades later, it didn't. My body gave up. I was living in Oakville. My 2 boys were at school. The house was quiet. And I was in bed staring at the wall, completely unable to move. And the scariest part was for the first time, I questioned if I mattered. If I was of any use to anyone in this hollowed state, even to my children. And that terrified me. That terrified me enough to act. So I got up. I got up and I walked to the kitchen and I threw out my cigarettes for good. And then I picked up the phone. And I Googled Zen Buddhist near me. And I called the first number. And a man's voice in a thick French accent answered. He said, "Hello, this is Arnaud." And I said 3 things to him that I have never said before. I am not okay. The way I'm living my life is not okay. And I need help. And 2 hours later, I was sitting in a very tight pair of jeans, cross-legged, on the floor of his basement with 6 perfect strangers. My first meditation, 90 minutes long. And for the first time, I stopped moving. And I met myself. And I hated every second of it. Alex, you're full of shit. Alex, you're ruining everything. Alex, what's wrong with you? Alex, who do you think you are? Alex, stop being so dramatic. And get over it. My mind and my body were on fire. My voices in my head were so ruthless. My throat was locked tight. I could barely pull in any air. My heart pounded. Every nerve felt electric, raw. That moment cracked me wide, wide open. And it was the beginning of what I now call bouncing in. Not bouncing back, not pushing through, but bouncing in, into my breath, into my body, into my truth, into everything I had abandoned to stay chosen and loved. Meditation led to mindfulness. Mindfulness led to mindsight. And together they taught me something I'd never learned, not in all my years of moving and adapting. How to stay. How to stay with discomfort, stay with grief, stay with the unspoken things that I'd buried. I started witnessing the invisible parts of me that I had disowned. The parts that ached and shamed, the parts that longed, the parts that were exhausted from holding it all together. And what I realized was unhealed pain, it doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It runs your life. It sucks your energy. It strains your relationships. It shuts down your choices and your voice. It whispers lies like, keep going. Don't feel that. Stay small. Be good. But the moment I stopped moving, really stopped, and started listening, I began to return, not into the world, but into myself, into my aliveness, where pain no longer ran the show. Choice did. And that choosing is now the heartbeat of my life's work. It's what I live, it's what I practice, it's what I teach, it's what I make space for. Because I know that I'm not the only one who smiled and disappeared while aching, who looked like they were thriving but couldn't feel a thing. Aliveness, it isn't a vibe. It's not a mood or a fleeting high. Aliveness is that steady, rooted home inside you that's always there and has always been there. It's the space where you stop bouncing back and you start bouncing into what moves you at your core, into what steadies and grounds you, what ignites you, what calls you forward. And maybe that's what I was really learning all those years ago on my walkabouts with Dad. I thought I was just watching people smile when they felt seen. But now I know. I was learning what aliveness looks like. Because here's what I've learned. I was born into movement, but the most powerful movement I have ever made was inward. Not into a new country, but into a new relationship with myself. And when I finally came home, I didn't just heal, I came alive. And when you come alive, you live differently. You lead differently. You love differently. You move like it matters, because it does. Thank you.